What are your earliest memories of art?
My earliest memories was my mom doing things. You know, she was kind of the artist of the family. She could draw and do things for church. You know, posters, and she was very creative. She could sew, and you know, she was the one that inspired me to be creative. So I think that's the deal. You know, you get your creative bug. I kind of feel like it's also a gift too. You know, when you're born, you kind of get something, and then you realize it. You know, at some point you realize it.
When did that realization happen for you?
Well, I was in college at Central State University there in Edmond, and I happened to see. Well, I got involved in some art classes as electives, and I was in the ceramics department in the drawing part, and then T.C. Cannon and Sherman Chattleston came and enrolled in down there, and
That's interesting.
once I saw you know their work out, and they were leaving the institute to finish, you know, get their degrees there at Central State, and once I saw what they were doing, I decided that I'd go to the institute. So you know, I kind of late bloomer really, because I was already in my 20s, you know, early 20s, and so they were, after I saw what they were doing after leaving the institute, I decided to go from Central State to the institute.
How early in your career were you looking to the mound building cultures and some of those ancient Southeastern designs for inspiration?
Well, after leaving the institute, you know, I researching there, and I was going to come back to the Cherokee country and, you know, get around my people, and I had hoped that by doing this field work I'd run across things, you know, and be able to do more research even out in the field, but I kind of found that there was really very few people that were doing the Southeast style, and that kind of amazed me, you know. Anna Mitchell, you know, Cecil Dick were the two key people that I remember that were trying to promote more of a Southeast style, but people were just going their own way. The basketry was always traditional still, but some of the beadwork designs and things like that were, you know, were off a little, and I was trying to.
And not very many people were doing pottery aside
No,
from Anna Mitchell.
no, there wasn't a lot of potters at that time either. But at that point, you know, I just tried to get the people that I was in contact with, I tried to get them to research more Southeast, because that's where that's where our cultural, from removal times, that's where we were located. So from then I took it on into my own work, you know, and been doing that theme, you know, ever since.
So did it involve sort of book research, or were you traveling to some places too?
Yeah, book research and you know, visits to mountain sites, and things like that. But a lot from books and things like that too.
Yeah, I was wondering, and you kind of answered that about Cecil Dick, I guess. Other people exploring some of those designs in other media.
Yeah, and you know, getting to talk with those guys, you know, actually talk with them and visit with them, and you know, have a drink with them, and I live in this town, Locust Grove. This is the home of Willard Stone. You know, getting to go over and see Willard and things that they were always that who I looked up as, you know, the generation before me. Those guys, the artists, were always just really open to helping you and doing what they could to, you know, encourage you, and so that was a good thing. They were good people.
Were you doing both pottery and ceramic sculpture from the beginning, or did you start with pottery and?
No, I was always doing both.
I see.
You know, and there at the institute, I took a different approach to ceramics from some of the other traditional people. I've always used a potter's wheel, you know, and I didn't mind using electric kiln, and so I liked. I got a little bit of training before I went to the Institute in ceramics, and Frank Simons there. He taught us about glaze recipes and
This
things.
is at Central.
At Central State. And so I was fair, kind of, you know, at least knew what it was about, how to mix your formulas and stuff. So I wanted to put color into my work, so I didn't mind, you know. And I've got some formulas of my own that I mixed up and.
So you went on to
Still
experiment
use.
with those glaze formulas at the Institute. And really
And develop new ones all through my career. I've developed more and more.
Yeah. What kinds of subjects were you doing early on? Aside from Southeastern, were you exploring, say in ceramics, more male figures, female? Was it sort of basically what you do now, or do you see any?
Basically still the same, male and female both. Mother and child, you know, has always been a good, probably for any artist, is a good thing. Seated, standing, you know. I think now I've noticed my work, I've refined, you know, more refined, and probably I'm happy with it, you know. It's just a kind of, an artist will go through developmental, where he develops, and I've kind of come to the point where I'm not really afraid to tackle much, you know, now. In the ceramics meet, I know its limitations. Truth of materials, there's limits to every material, but it doesn't scare me, you know. It doesn't make me shy away from some odd projects. So I like that, you know, that I'm just done it long enough, I think.
I know for a while, at least I think I remember at Trail of Tears art show, people didn't know what to do with ceramic sculpture. You know, in competitive shows, sometimes it would get put in the wrong category, sort of, and not. Did that ever happen to you in the early days, where you felt
what I've seen is people take the word ceramics. When you say ceramics, people automatically vision in their head these little molds that associated with old ladies out there making these little ceramic chickens or whatever things, you know, and casting them, and that term. But really, the term ceramics means, you know, anything to do with clay. So mine are one of a kind, hand built, you know, or not hand built, but I've used machines to make some of the things, but a lot of it's hand, and it's a mixture with me. I use the machines I have in different ways, techniques, but there's a lot of handwork involved. So then I use electric kiln, you know. So I'm a contemporary ceramist, is all I can say. I'm a contemporary, on the contemporary side.
Can you talk a bit about your the public art commission that you did for the city of Chattanooga, Tennessee?
Yeah, that was our first one. The first thing, you know, luckily we had our facility enlarged, where our studio was enlarged to handle a bigger job like that, and that came down in the RFP, you know, the request for a proposal. Wanted you to develop an art team, you know, and they were looking for Cherokees or Creeks, or, you know, somebody that, because right there was the point of embarkment for the Trail of Tears journey. Right there at that site was where there was a swing ferry there, and they used that to swim across the river, and then they had to start walking on the Trail of Tears. So it had historical reference. So we came up with our plans. You know, I developed a team: Robbie McMurtry, Ken Foster, Gary Allen, myself, Demas, and Wade Bennett. Nagofty Scott too was on there. So, and then we just went down and went through the process, you know, and they selected, and we went for an interview and explained our project, and they chose us, and we did. That was we got the job and started working.
So, what was your part of the project?
I was kind of like the manager, you know, and the head ceramics.
And what ultimately ended up being installed on the Riverwalk was?
We did 7 6-foot stainless steel rings with clay insets in them. And that, we'd never seen anybody do that before, but that was, you know, kind of my vision. But so we had to go and do some research with, you know, the kind of adhesives that they use on skyscrapers, you know, that the construction industry uses on their, you know, outdoor, like for window panes. So we use that kind of caulking and those kind of industrial glues and things to set the ceramics in, because it was going to be outdoor.
Wow.
So, you know, but through it, we developed a process of attaching clay to stainless, and now, you know, we still use that technique that we developed in my own work now. So, you know, it was kind of cool.
Yeah, wonderful breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
And the ceramic pieces are bas relief. Is that right? They come out.
Yeah. I had purchased an extruder, and I never got to use it much, and finally on that job I really used that piece of equipment. So yeah.
Were they mainly symbolic designs, or?
Yeah, we did a time period thing where the earliest down to the last one to disappear from that region, you know, within that region, the last shell type
Mm-hmm.
of work.
Mm-hmm.
And there are different symbols along the wall. So we did a time deal. That was the timeline.
Have you been back since the, I guess, inauguration, or?
I've been back a few times, and they found fault with the engineers had some way hadn't stabilized one of the walls that our work was hanging on. So a year ago we had to go down there and remove our artwork.
Oh my goodness.
And they fixed the problem, you know, went back in and fixed the problems that they had encountered. And then we went back last year and reinstalled again. So, but I've been back times in between, and one of the things I remember is that's a place where the board rack guys like to go, the skateboarders.
Oh.
At night, late at night,
Yes.
I'd go down there late at night, and they'd be coming through there with their boards and stuff, but I noticed they'd stop and look at them and admire them and treat them respectfully. So I would talk to them and I'd say, hey, watch out for me, watch out for these, you know, at night when, you know, nobody's around. You guys are here. You guys help take care of the artwork for me. So I live clear in Oklahoma, and yeah, we will, and
That's a really wonderful.
Yeah, I just,
story.
you know, and we haven't had any problem with damage or anything there. The people have really taken our work and taken care of it.
They're invested in it.
Yeah, that's nice as an artist to feel.
Moving into your philosophies and art practices a bit, have you experimented with different types of clay, or you found your source pretty early, and tell us about it?
Yeah, I was lucky. I just happened to be at doing a workshop there at Macon, Georgia, at that mound there, and there was a Creek girl who was a tour guide, and she told me about this clay outside of town there, and I went out there and got some and experimented with it, and then I've been using Lizella clay from Lizella, Georgia for 30 years now. You know, it's an alluvial clay. It was pushed down during the glaciers. The glaciers pushed this clay down and it formed into clay. So that's what I use.
And especially neat because of that connection with Cherokee homelands and that older tradition of pottery that.
Yeah, and at the temperatures I fire it to, what I like is I don't have to do anything to it. It comes out skin colored, just without anything added to it or anything. It comes out a nice red orange, perfect for Indian skin.
You talked about both combining using a machine a bit, but also hand coiling, I guess, pots and sculptures. Does it just depend on the form, which approach you take, or do you always...
they're like, use those different equipment to build you a shape or something, but then you've always got the option to change that shape, or, you know, that's one thing I like about clay is it's you can manipulate it with your fingers. You know, you get to be really hands-on and do things with your hands and change its shape without any tools, you know, just all hands. And I like that. And then it's always amazing to me that you can take something that's easy to manipulate, and then when you fire it and, you know, put your glazes and colors on, you know, at the end it comes out something so hard that it's, you know, hard and durable. It goes through that metamorphic change process, and that still is like Christmas when I open that kiln up. I was just like, oh man, I made it.
What's it like working with your son?
It's you know, I live kind of far out here, and while he was in college, I just felt kind of like isolated, you know, not to be around artists, another artist enough, more artists enough, and I appreciated going to the shows and seeing artists then, but a lot of time I was just out there by myself, you know, and now I got somebody to talk art with, and we don't always agree. We have our little differences of opinion, but we can talk them out and reach a good medium. And he's the next generation artist too. And I think that's good for Indian people to have generations of artists. You know, you hear about the Southwest Pueblos having 8 generations of potters and stuff, and hopefully the grandson will, I don't know, you know, I can't predict that, but we're trying on him too.